Hello YouTube. I will tell you today about the sorcerers of the Ukrainian Highlands, keepers of traditions, or magicians and healers who still live in the center of Europe today. Well, in search of those who keep magical traditions or traditions of magic, seekers of the esoteric reality and paranormal phenomena, sometimes they study Mexican shamans, sometimes they turn to the experience of the indigenous peoples of Siberia, and you can find quite a lot in my channel about those indigenous people and the paranormal phenomena that they have experienced. But those who are considered to be magicians, sorcerers and healers actually live in the center of Europe today, although few people outside of the Carpathian mountains know about them. The Hutzul Molfars are the last representatives of ancient pagan traditions that deserve interest not only from esoteric enthusiasts, but also from ethnographers and culturologists. The story about the Molfars should begin with the story about the Hutzuls. After all, this phenomenon exists only in their environment. This small, according to some sources, from 20 to 25,000 people, small Ukrainian sub-ethnicity, they live high in the Carpathians. My wife is also from the Carpathian mountains, but she is not of the Hutzul ethnicity. Well, for them, harsh living conditions and the centuries-old distance between the Highlanders and the population of the plain, it determined the specifics of the Hutzul culture. In their villages, everything is not the same as in the other Carpathian villages. A different dialect, costumes, cuisine, rituals. But the most interesting feature of the Hutzul culture is the preservation of the most ancient, archaic customs in everyday life. Part of this archaic and breathtaking history are the Molfars, the direct heirs of the ancient Slavic magicians and sorcerers, the Volkhvi. Although there are beautiful wooden churches in the Hutzul villages, researchers define the worldview of the Hutzuls as so-called double faith. This means that in their minds, Christianity paradoxically got along with paganism for many centuries. After hearing the service in the church and praying heartily, Hutzul would go to the Molfar wanting to find out the future, solve the problems of today, or get a good harvest guaranteed. The Hutzuls did not advertise their traditions, but they didn't hide them either. However, there was no one to hide from. Until the end of the 19th century, there were no strangers in their villages, except for the government officials who occasionally visited. Only in 1911, after the publication of the Kotsubinski's novel Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors, the existence of Molfars became known outside the Carpathians. I described this work in my video about the Ukrainian cryptids. See the link in the description to this one, and if you want to find out about a few things about the abominable snowman or Yeti in Ukraine under their own names, please see it. I think you will be amazed. You'll find out much more about Ukrainian culture and traditions than you ever knew. Well, the film based on that story was made in 1964, and it fueled interest in the Carpathian magicians. But in books and films, reality is always mixed with fiction, and many Ukrainians doubted that the Molfars existed in reality. Now, after a number of ethnographic expeditions, we know for sure they existed and continue to exist. However, gradually turning from an integral part of the Hutzul life into a kind of the tourist attraction, and why not? Just don't push them where unnecessary. If you talk to Hutzul about Molfars, the Hutzul will certainly complain that the Molfars have become the wrong ones, not like the ones before. Once upon a time, these Carpathian magicians possessed extraordinary powers. It is difficult to say what they could not do, except probably to resurrect the dead. Strong Molfars, with the help of magic, drove away thunderclouds from villages, giving the peasants the opportunity to harvest. Collecting herbs known only to them, they treated Hutsuls from various ailments. There were no other healers in their villages until the 20th century. They also helped in other difficult cases. For example, if a black cat ran between a husband and a wife, or if a person began to be haunted by failures, it was believed that the Molfars not only know the future of a person, but also are able to influence the person. But it is not by chance that the word Molfar and Molfa, enchanted object, consonant, are similar to the Italian word malfare, to do evil. Not all Molfars served the light force of the light. There were also sorcerers among them who could cast a spell on a person, quarrel with the most ardent lovers, cause a thunderstorm, wind, torrential rain, and even kill with their magic. Therefore, the attitude of the Hutsuls to the Molfars has often been difficult. They were both respected and feared. But what about today? Nowadays, all-powerful magicians who are able to command the elements exist only in Hutsul legends. Some believe that the last real Molfar was Mikhailo Nechai, who lived in the village of Verkhny Yasenev. Fame came to him in the late 1980s when Nechai provided good weather at the Chervona Ruta festival. Since that time, he had been visited by people from all over Ukraine who wanted to heal or find out their future, and at the same time, of course, by the ubiquitous journalists. In the interview that he gave, Nechai not only talked about the traditions of the Molfars, but also answered questions about the political future of Ukraine. And therefore, when the 81-year-old elder was killed on the night of the full moon in July of 2011, some people were quick to say politics were involved in this case. However, the investigation found that the killer was a mentally ill person having nothing to do with politics. After the death of Nechai, the Molfars as the topic did not disappear from the pages of Ukrainian media. They're still willing to write about their prophecies and secrets. But who gives interviews to journalists? Genuine Molfars or tricksters exploiting this image? The Hutsuls themselves treat such media characters with irony. Those genuine keepers of the ancient tradition who still remain are in no hurry to make themselves visible. That can be understood. The commercialization of any custom inevitably leads to the degeneration of its essence and the transformation of pagan rituals into a show for jaded tourists. Well, I am sure tourists will come to Ukraine when the war is over and Ukraine regains all its lands and will continue to exist in glory and develop. Trust me, there is much to see in Ukraine. There are ancient traditions. I'm from Kiev, and there are so many strange legends connected with this city where I'm from. I told you before that as a preteen even, when we played in the hills of Kiev, we would find ancient weapons, and sometimes weapons not so ancient, and people actually died from explosives, but you could find unusual things. And we have tunnels under the city, and I'll tell you other stories about my city. But Ukraine is full of so much, so many regions. Each one has its own story. And Crimea, it's an incredible place when it comes to ufology and ancient mysteries. And that island that I keep telling you about, and I have to make a video one day about, in the Black Sea, where I was able to go and underground during the archaeological excavation, ancient Greek city, and there is much more, and I'll tell you those stories. I want to thank you for your attention to my work. I ask you that if you can support me, you'll find the links in description to this video. Please tell others, please like my video, and stay tuned. Thank you.